What's up, guys? It's the Player of X here. Today we're going to go over how to convert 5th edition items into Pathfinder 2nd edition items and a slight nod on how to convert Pathfinder 1 edition items into Pathfinder 2nd edition items. So the way that Pathfinder does its items, it's pretty simple to transfer 5th edition items into. So first thing you want to do is determine the effect. Then you want to look for the bonus, look for spells that are like the effect, find a price and a level, and then set any DCs if necessary. So the item I chose today was a Sunforger. Sunforger in 5th edition, you gain a +2 bonus to attacks and damage roll. So right there we see the bonus. It's a +2 item. And then as an action, you can hurl this weapon 120 feet, and then it does pretty much a fireball effect. And then the end is a little fluff. So first things first, determine the bonus. It is a +2 item. So you want to go to all these links for these websites will be in the description box below. This template that I'm using can be found on PF2 Tools. PF2 Tool has tons of tools, very useful to create things. But back to this. So in this case, it's a +2 weapon. So it's a +2 potency weapon. So we're gonna say it's +2. So right there we got an item level right there, but item level 10. If there's any part of this item that is higher level, then we are going to make it that item level. Sometimes these things can change depending on what type of magical effects we're having, but in this case we're gonna keep it a so far level 10 item. So it's a +2 potency. Now it says +2 to striking or to hit, so we're for now gonna say it's a striking item. So it's a +2 striking. We could do greater and that would increase the price, of course, but for now we'll do a potency +2 striking, and it is the Sunforger is a Warhammer. So right here there's a +2 striking Warhammer. Now the next effect, it says as an action. Now the action economy in 2nd edition Pathfinder is very different than 5th edition D&D. So what we're going to do is we're going to determine what the effect is to determine how many actions it is. In this case, it's fireball. So most effects will always have this heading, right? Its activation is usually the spell in this case. So fireball in 2nd edition is 2 actions. So it's a two action activity to activate it, and it is a command. Now the second part of how it activates, it's all flavor wise, like how do you want this thing used. You know, if it's a flute item or like a magic instrument, you have to play it or something, but in this case you just command the item. Frequency, how often you can use it. Now most items frequency is once a day. You can use this magic effect once a day. Anything more, like if it's multiple times a day, you should increase the level by 2 for each additional cast that you can cast it. And if it's a permanent effect, then you should increase the level by 4. Now when it comes to permanent effects, I would be careful. Permanent effects are very powerful. If it's a cantrip, that's fine. If it's you can cast fireball every turn, that's super dangerous, and I would be careful and not do that. So then the effect, same thing as a Sunforger, you hurl it 120 feet. So you just hurl it 120 feet, and it casts 3rd level fireball on the location. Now the DC we'll get to in a minute, and then afterwards it returns to your hand. Now when trying to figure out spells on items, the best thing to look at is magic wands. So in this case, fireball is a 3rd level spell, and a magic wand that casts a 3rd level spell is a 7th level item. That's lower than our 10th level item. You could combine the prices of these two, but well, it kind of works that way. If you increase, if you take the 360 cost of the magic wand and you put it on the weapon potency thing, you get about 1,200, which that's the price of the item. That's a good way to do it. You can add the price of these 2 items together, so a 3rd level spell on top of a 10th level item which is the potency thing, you're going to get about 11th level item. But in most cases, if the item is lower, so in this case, this item is a lower level item than the strongest that we got for the potency rune here, I would just increase the item level by 1. It's usually your best bet. If it's a magic weapon or armor plus a magic effect, if that effect is lower level, just increase it by 1. Usually it's increased by 1 or 2 levels. It's not that big of a deal. But for every special effect that you add onto already magic item, just increase its level by 1. From there, you want to determine the DC. So for the Sun Forger, it starts as a level 10 item because it's a +2 striking, and I increased the item level by 1 because it's going to cast Fireball, making it item level 11. So then we have to look for the DC of the thing, and a level 11 item or creature, in most cases all these things are the same. The DC is 28, so we just plug that in to DC 28, and we go from there and fill out the rest. Now those are probably the most, this is going to cover 90% of any of the effects you're looking for. Most 5th edition or Pathfinder 1st edition, or any even 3.5 and 4th edition items, they usually have what's the bonus and what is its effect. And most effects are spell-like effects. Look for the spell online, what level it is, determine the wand, and go from there. Now for other types of items, so in this case, if we look at this cape here, this cape allows you to cast Dimension Door, and it has a little extra effect. So it's a worn item, it's a cape. It doesn't have any other type of bonus on it. So in this case, since it's allowing you to cast Dimension Door, we'll look up Dimension Door. Dimension Door in 2nd edition is a 4th level spell. A 4th level magic item wand is a 9th level item. And then this has a little extra. It leaves around a cloud that gives you light obscurity, which would probably be obscure in Pathfinder 2nd edition. So I would increase the item level by 1 because it's adding a little something on top of the fact that it's allowing you to cast Dimension Door. Now this item, you can't cast it again until next dawn. So again, it's a once a day item. So again, magic wand, 9th level, we'd make that 10th level, and there you go. You got your cape there. It takes 2 seconds. You figure out what the effect is, you look up the wand, you have the item level. Now most times the item level matters for 2 reasons. 1, price, if you're allowing players to buy these magic items or sell them. 2, it allows you to determine the DC of the item, if it has some type of effect. And 3, it will help you determine when you should give this item out. Giving out an item level 11 item to a party of like 3rd level or 4th level things is going to skew combat in their favor largely. We're talking about giving them Excalibur at level 1. Nothing is going to be able to beat a DC 28 on your monsters for a while, and if they crit fail, they're taking double damage and all this other stuff, and it can be quite dangerous. So you want to be careful with item level and when to give it to them. Usually the ballpark is, if it's something powerful, you can give it like 1 or 2 levels before them. So for something like this, you could give it to a party of level 9 or 10. I would even stretch it if it's like a quest item to 4 levels ahead. You want to make them feel powerful with the item for a long time. So something like this, I would give it to a party of, let's see, 7th or 6th level even. But you want to remember that this item is going to make the party very powerful how early on you give it to them, so be careful when making your own. Now when making your own custom items, it's simple. Like most cases people are making armor and weapons. Just find what magic type effect you want on it. Usually it's a wand effect, and what runes are on it, and then you just combine those prices even, and it'll give you an estimate of the item's level. Now another good thing to do is just look up specific magic weapons. These usually, if you just go to specific magic weapons, you can see what the prices are. So like if we go to this, is a +1 great axe with an added effect, 60 gold. If you're looking to make a +1 weapon with a little something extra, then you could just use this as your template, right? If now the more specific the effect, the it'll change the item's level. So an example here, if you make a wand that can cast polymorph, but it only affects dwarves, I would lower the level of the item by 1, because it's very specific on what it can target. It's not as reliable as a wand that can just cast polymorph. This is very specifically targeting a specific thing. So for example, this is the Burglar's Buckler from first edition. It's a +1 buckler, so we would again start with the base of it's a +1. In this case, it's armor. So if we do, I guess shields, right? I think shields use the armor one. So we go basic magic. So it's a +1 shield, right? So it's a 5th level item. And this, it's even 5th level here, even easier. And this item is giving you a +2 to disable devices and sleight of hand. How I would write this, it gives you +2 to disable traps and, let's say, pickpocket. Since it's giving you a specific bonus to 2 things, I wouldn't give it as much of a value as giving +1 to a stat, right? If this gives you +1 to stealth, or +1 to thievery flat, I would increase the item's level by 1. In this case, since you're getting, or I would probably increase it by 2, depending. In this case, since it's +2 to 2 different things, I would increase it by 1. But let's say this, or by 2. But in this case, since it's increasing, if it was like, let's say it just gave you +2 to disable traps, I would just increase the level by 1. It's only giving you a +2 to a very specific thing, where an item that gives you a +1 to a specific stat, that's a permanent thing. Like, they will benefit from that forever. So I would increase that by +2. So instead of a +5 item, because it's a +1 buckler, in this case I would increase it by 2 because it's giving you 2 different stats here. So that would be a item level 7. But if it was just +2 to a specific thing, I'd make that about a 6, or even leave it a 5, right? Make it a little special effect that the item can have. Again, this is going to take you through 90% of items in 5th edition or in 1st edition. Most items are just a bonus and a magic effect. And determining what that magic effect is as simple as knowing what spell the thing is referencing or referring to, or like effects. Now, when it comes to stronger items, so we're talking about multiple effects and reactions from items. Once you go past the, I would say, 2 effects on the item, that's when I would go into thinking about it's an artifact. It has multiple effects and multiple things that it can do. This is a special item. I would make that an artifact item. I would make it very hard for the players to get, and for every one of those effects, I would increase the item's level by 2. And I wouldn't make it something easily found. When you have an item that can do multiple effects and has reactions and free actions and does special things, those are the type of weapons you want to be careful of, and those are the type of weapons that will affect the character completely. So it should be a powerful item. Now again, the reason we're trying to get item level is to determine when to give these things out. It's a bad idea to give a strong item out early, but it's your game, you do you. For the rest of the things you want to add, for traits, you always want to make sure it's a magical. You always want to put that it's magical so that they can identify what it is. And in this case, since the Sunforger does Fireball, I just gave it the Fireball traits, Evocation and Fire. So just plug that in. If it's something like Dimension Door, I would say it's Conjuration, Teleportation effect on it, and that's it. It's that simple. The system is simple to mold in the way you want. It's just determining the item's level that really matters, because that's going to determine your price and what you should give these things out. For any more specific things, again, the more specific you're getting, I would increase the levels by 1, or try to find an item that's around that idea in here. So like if you're trying to make a very specific magic item, I would definitely look on what is already available and try to just tweak the effects on them. And that's about it, guys. To be honest, creating magic items is easy enough. It all depends on, you know, the basics. You want to say, what is the bonus? So +1, +2, +3, striking, greater striking. Or if it's not a weapon, then what armor? And if it's not armor, then it's a worn item, and you don't have to worry about that. If it's a ring, a hat, a cape, a cloak, paint sets, you know, if it's not a weapon or armor, it's a much easier time, because now you're just trying to determine the magic effect, and for that you just look up the stuff for wands. Whatever the spell effect level is, that's the wand level, increase it by 1 or 2, and you're done. And that's about it, guys. Let me know what you think. Let me know what items you would like to see converted, and if you have any questions, leave them below. I'd love to answer them. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. See ya.